Welcome. This is part 4 of the basics of astrology. If you're joining me from the other parts, I welcome you and I thank you and I appreciate it. So, in this video, we're going to talk about what an aspect is, the 5 major types of aspects. There are also aspects that are, the lesser aspects. We'll talk about those probably in another video. But we're going to talk about what the 5 major aspects are, what defines them, what they look like within your chart, and what they look like, their symbols, what their symbols look like as well. So, you know, let's move on. So there are 5 major aspects, right? An aspect in astrology is when planets, orbitals, or mathematical points produce angles with one another. All right, general definition of what an aspect is. Like I said, it can be anything, an actual planet like Saturn, or a mathematical point like Black Moon Lilith. All right. So moving on, the first major aspect, and we see it all the time, and it's the simplest one I think to understand, is conjunctions. All right. So let me zoom in here. This symbol, this circle with a little line in it kind of looks like this. That's a conjunction. So a conjunction is when two or more planets, orbitals, or mathematical points occupy the same degrees at once. Right? Keyword is at once. It's happening at the same time. But generally within your chart, and we're looking at the natal chart, and we're really trying to teach how to read the natal chart, it's not going to depend on where things are at now. It's going to depend on what your chart looks like when you were born. Obviously, that's what your natal chart is. So these two lines right here, right? That's a conjunction. If you see here, they're within, I would say, about 5 or 6 degrees, each little notch is a degree. I think that's about 10 degrees from the end of Libra here. But this is a conjunction. These planets, Saturn and Pluto, are extremely close to one another. Not super duper extremely close, because as you can see in this aspect, and you'll see this when you actually look at your chart, because like most of the time, most of these apps or websites you'll go to, tools for reading charts, like AstroSeek. I love AstroSeek. You'll see it'll show your your natal chart, and then down somewhere else it'll show an actual aspect chart. So you'll know what is, and there'll also be other tools to help you see what exactly it is. Like this is a conjunction, but it's like 10 degrees apart, and it's separating, right? That's what the S means. So because it's so far apart, I would honestly look at conjunctions, or really any aspect, to be within 5 degrees to be like a normal aspect. So with it being 10 degrees, it's a semi conjunction. You're not, there's a possibility of feeling that aspect in play and not feeling that aspect in play. So this is something important to pay attention to when you're looking at different aspects, how close they are and things like that. Can't really see it in this chart, and we'll probably go more in depth in another video, but right here, this is just how it is. Conjunctions, they're generally the mixing of the two energies, right? So like, even though Saturn and Pluto are outer planets, right, they take a long time to go around. I say a long time. Saturn takes a long time, but it takes about 30 years. That's why you have your Saturn return. You're like 28, 29, 30, something like that. And Pluto, I think, takes 240 something years. I can't remember exactly how long it takes, but it's 200 years plus, right? So it's generally just a mixing of two energies. Like, so you would think of Saturn themes and Pluto themes in this case for this chart. Capricorn themes, Capricorn themes and Scorpio themes, kind of just put that together, and that's the conjunction you're going to get. I really think conjunctions are predominantly neutral. They can be anything, but you have to pay attention to the planets that are in play, right? So let's say you have a moon in Pisces, right? Currently, right now in real life, Saturn is in Pisces. So I don't remember exactly what degrees it's at right now, but it's in Pisces. And let's say your moon is around the same degrees that it's at. That would be a conjunction. And to me, and to a lot of people in the astrological community, they would consider that to be a negative conjunction because it's Saturn. Saturn is sort of depressive, and Saturn kind of restricts whatever it touches. In order to teach us how to how can I say, in order to, it sort of restricts whatever it touches so that it can teach us how to do with what we have, so that when you get more, you don't go wild and crazy. It's like Saturn going through your second house is going to restrict your money so that later on you know how to handle lots, large sums of money. But basically, they would consider that negative, right? But if you take a planet like Jupiter, you know and you conjunct that with your moon, right? They would consider it positive because Jupiter tends to be a lot more. It's just generally more positive. It's boisterous, money, luck, things like that are kind of involved with Jupiter. So you can consider it positive. Like I said, it's generally just a mixing of two energies, right? So think about it this way: if you have a negative, right? If you have a more negative planet, even though none of the planets to me are negative, none of the planets' themes, signs, houses are negative, right? But if you have something like I said, like Saturn and Pluto together, that's going to be a little more difficult to deal with. Although these are outside planets, so you're not going to feel the effect as strongly as you would with a personal planet, right? Like I said, these two are conjuncted as well, Mars and Jupiter. Nice conjunction, by the way, and it's in the second house. Nice. Having Jupiter in the second house is pretty nice because it's usually like a good place for money. But I'm going off topic right there, kind of meandering. A lot of this video and a lot of the videos I'm making is just to kind of spitball and explain what I see and talk about the information that I know so that it's brought to the surface, because I think it's very important around this time. But we'll explain later about all that other stuff as this channel continues to grow and move on. So like I said, main points, conjunctions are neutral. General mixings of the two energy. It's when two planets, mathematical points, whatever you want to say, are in the same place at the same time, pretty much. And this is what the symbol looks like again, right? This right here, circle with a line of it. That looks terrible, but you get the understanding, you get the picture, right? So let's move on to oppositions, right? So we're talking about the negative first, and we're talking about the positive. So, and to me, no aspect is really negative, but I can see how it could be seen like that. They're all here to help you grow. The universe loves you. The universe is wanting more for you, and all these are just lessons. Like I said, if you're like me and you're a Saturn dominant person and you have a lot of Capricorn in your chart, you're gonna go through a lot of karmic lessons. But it's look, Saturn and Capricorn, it guarantees success as long as you do what you're supposed to, right? So that's anything you go through in life, any of these transits, any of these difficult things, they're here in order for you to grow. All right, so pay attention, take the time to sit and understand the things that have gone on, and be diligent in what it is you're experiencing, and in paying attention to the different seasons of life. So moving on, oppositions is when two planets, mathematical points or orbitals, are directly opposite one another, right? So let me see if I can find one right here. This is an opposition right here. It looks very similar to the conjunction, but instead it's kind of like just has another circle, right? This one is a semi as well. You can see it's 9 degrees separating. It's a little pixelated because I'm really zoomed in, but you can see what I'm looking at pretty much. And that's why I drew the picture here. Honestly, when I look at it, it reminds me of dumbbells, like a dumbbell. But either way, yeah, that's how it looks. It's red because it is considered to be a difficult aspect. Neutral aspects are black and positive aspects are blue, right? So generally, and especially from my own experiences, right, oppositions are polarizing, right? It tends to be when one planet or tries to take over the other planet, or both planets are trying to do that. So like, let's say the energies are trying to overtake one another. I don't really see a lot of oppositions here. This is one opposition that I just circled, right? So in this chart, in John Doe's chart, which I forgot to write John Doe, right? John Doe. And John Doe's, let me make it smaller because it's a little too big, but Yeah, John Doe, right? John Doe has his Venus and North Node. No, I think it's just his Venus. Has his Venus right here and his Moon opposition each other, right? Sign of Cancer, sign of Capricorn. Those are opposites. Um, like I said, they're generally the two energies just kind of trying to like run over one another. Um, it's very polarizing for me personally. From the experiences I've had, the energy usually comes from the outside in. It's like you could be minding your business and someone comes along and kind of opposes things onto you, right? That's usually how I feel oppositional energy. Um, Obviously it depends on the transit. There are different things for each transit and how they play out depending on the planets. I think anything Uranus wise will be pretty. Uranus or Aquarius, same energy, could be pretty much like what I was just explaining, where it kind of comes from the outside, because Uranus and Aquarius is very fast moving energy. But if it's Saturn, it might be from within side. I say generally squares are more for that. They're, honestly, realistically, we're gonna go over squares next, but squares and oppositions are. Don't mind the truck. I know it's kind of loud, but not much I can do about it. But the oppositions and squares are both similar. It's just like how you have a trine and then you have a sextile. They're the same type of energy. It's just from my experience, oppositions kind of have a different way of affecting you. And a lot of time, it usually forces you to have to make some sort of decision when it happens. Let's say you have um something. Let's say you have your Venus right in in your sixth house, right? Or let's say something like a planet, Pluto is in your sixth house and it's squaring your Venus. Not squaring, it's opposing your Venus. You might have to decide and this is sounding negative, but I'm just giving an example. Uh, with it being sixth house energy, or let's say like your Venus is in Virgo, right? Same thing. Virgo kind of represents it dictates and has control over small animals. The astrology community likes to say pets in particular because they're small animals for the most part. You might have to put down, or you might have something go on with the pets of yours, or some sort of small animal infestation or whatever. I've seen it in people's charts from reading them. I've seen where people actually go through this when it happens on numerous occasions. So, not to put fear into you, right? But point is, it kind of like forced you to make a decision, right? And that's kind of how I look at oppositions for the most part. Now, another trick, right? Tips and tricks about oppositions is oppositions. Oh, I didn't mean to get rid of John Doe. Hold up. Oppositions will always have signs that are of the same modality, right? These are both cardinal, right? Capricorn, Cancer, both cardinal. Let's say you had opposition here to like somewhere over here. It wouldn't be like that because I didn't write that right. Be over here, Scorpio. That would still be the same modality, right? Fixed modalities. This is fixed. This is, you know, Capricorn and Cancer are cardinal. They'll be of the same modality. The only time you'll have a different modality when you have things like this is when, like, let's say, let me get rid of this actually so it's a little more clear. Let's say, let's say the moon, instead of being here, is like 1 degree before going into Aquarius, right? It still would have to be the same exact modality for it to be, it would have to be the same exact sign for it to be exact at that point. And exact means, when it comes to aspects, it means that the aspect is within 2 degrees, right? 2 degrees to obviously being zero. Zero is when it's at its highest and most exactness. Um, when it's above that, which is kind of a general aspect, you'll see here like how these ones look like. I know this is a conjunction here, but you know, right? Let me zoom out a little bit because that's a little too much. Um, there is nothing here. There's no fixed box. The fixed box means that they're exact. It means that they're within 2 degrees. I just want to clarify that before moving on. But excuse me, I had to sneeze. Yeah. The only time that would happen where you can feel the effect and it's not in the same exact modality or completely exactly opposite sign is when it's very close to the edges of a sign, right? Like I said, close to the edges of Capricorn or whatever sign, but I'm just using Capricorn as an example. A planet might be in Gemini and you might feel the effect because it's almost to exactness, which, maybe this is exactness for this transit. I messed that up. Maybe this is exactness for the transit where the X is at. But yeah, that is oppositions. Like I said, oppositions messed up. Oppositions look like this right here. Like I said, a circle with a line attaching another circle, right? And they're red because they're considered to be a difficult aspect. So moving on, we have squares, right? Squares when two planets' orbitals and mathematical points are 90 degrees from one another, right? We have a couple squares in this chart. In fact, I think John Doe has a good amount of squares. There's a lot of squares here. It's pretty easy to see that a square actually looks like a square in terms of the actual aspects, like the symbol for it. This is an exact one, by the way. I would say square energy it's difficult. It is more difficult than opposition. It can be friction between the two energies. It can cause tension overall. It is generally, a difficult time between these two themes, right? Whatever the planets or signs are involved, right? So I didn't mean to zoom out that much. If we go look at some of the squares that John Doe has, we have, what is this? This is Venus square Saturn, right? So this is Saturn right here. And Venus is up here. As you can see, same thing with squares. They will be the same modality, right? This is cardinal. This is cardinal. The only reason why it's not opposition is because it's not directly across from it. It's a 90-degree angle, right? 90 degrees. That's what makes a square, 90 degrees. So just looking at the chart, you can kind of see it already being 90 degrees. And this is an exact one. This is 0, actually. That's crazy. It's below 0. I don't think it's probably actually 0, 0. I mean, if it is, it kind of sucks for John Doe. I won't lie. This isn't the best aspect to have. And I'm saying this as someone who has a lot of negative Venus aspects within my chart. But point is, yeah, it's kind of rough if you have Saturn square Venus. But obviously, within astrology, everything is learnable and teachable, and you can change whatever it is within your chart as long as you're willing to. And like I said, these are all lessons. This is all growth. But yeah, it's generally a difficult time. I won't lie. It's more so instead of one energy trying to take over the other, it's more so like the energies are kind of moving past each other and causing friction between one another. So it's like I said, the energy of Saturn in Libra, by the way, and the energy of Venus in Cancer are going to be rubbing each other the wrong way, right? They're both cardinal. They're both 90 degrees from one another. Those just kind of generally take those two energies, right, from the other videos, because I had discussed the signs and the houses. Take the energy from those two signs and put them together, and that kind of will be what your transit is going to be like, what you're going to be experiencing. I would say Saturn probably will overrun the other one. Now, this isn't a transit, this is an aspect in the person's chart, but I'm just saying, right? Like, if you look at it from a transit point of view, same thing, except you would look more towards the bigger sign, the bigger planet, which is always the outer planet. So, or whatever is coming in contact with your natal chart, right? Like, let's say Saturn is not here in his natal chart, or maybe it is. This will be a Saturn return, but Saturn, let's say Saturn was coming in, it was squaring his Venus. I personally went through that. I'll definitely be doing videos on that, talking about personal transits I've had and how they affected me. But point is that would be a square. It would have to be in one of these, 90 degrees apart in one of these cardinal signs, right? So like And the same rule applies, right? If let's say the Venus is at the edge of Cancer, it there could be a square in something like Scorpio, even though it's not the same uh modality. You would feel it in there. But like I said, in order for anything to be exact, and for a square or an opposition, it has to be the same modality. It's just the difference between the two is oppositions are directly across from each other, and squares are 90 degrees apart, right? This is a square right here, but you get the picture. I know I've explained it a number of times. Um, yeah, difficult transits. Right, squares, and I would say this: you don't end up making decisions necessarily. You can. I like to say the energy more so comes from within you personally. You'll be feeling it within you. Obviously, you'll feel all the transits, but it's like the way the energy comes to you. At least from my personal experience, I don't feel it. I feel squares from within. Meanwhile, oppositions come from the outside and make me feel sad or happy or whatever. Meanwhile, the square can be within. There's squares that people go through that literally have nothing happen to them. They're just in a mood because the square energy is coming from within and they're just not feeling great for whatever reason, or they're feeling happy or whatever. It can work like that, you know? But like I said, it is considered to be a difficult and negative transit. Like I said, no transit is difficult. In particular, squares I think are very important in astrology because they cause friction. And we talk bad about friction. Like I say, you're in a relationship with someone and you have friction with them all the time. Obviously, too much friction is bad, but you need just the right amount of friction because friction is what keeps things structured and stable, right? Like a table cannot stand without friction. You need friction for that table to reliably stand and be secure and sturdy. And any relationship needs that, even a relationship with yourself. So you need some squares within your chart. Obviously, if you have too many squares, it's just gonna like implode, and then that's gonna be it. But you need those squares within your chart. It's important. So moving on, trines, right? A trine is when two planets make an angle that is 120 degrees away from each other, right? So you can see these blue lines, right? This would be a trine. So Neptune is trining. No, is that a trine? I think it's a sextile, but um let me let me show this. Let me show what it looks like. So trines are like this. It's a triangle. You can hear it in the name, trine, triangle, trine, however you want to say. You can say trine or trine. I kind of go back and forth for some reason. I don't know. It's like my dialect changes. Um, but yep, it's a triangle. Nothing crazy. One of the tips and tricks, I have for trines and how to see it within your actual wheel and your natal chart is it the same element? It's not going to be the same modality. It's going to be one of the other two, but is it the same element, right? Because like I said, there's only 3 of each element sign in the chart, right? Because 3 times 4, right? It's 4 modalities. That's a word, 4 modalities. There's 3 modalities, and there's what do you call it? Like I said, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. That is the 3 water signs, right? So and then the cardinal, what do you call it? The modalities, 3 modalities, but cardinal, fixed, and mutable, right? Well, that's 3 times 3, obviously, right? But as I'm over here, I realize as I'm talking, I'm like, oh, I'm saying the wrong thing, but I know what I mean. I'm just like talking too fast for my brain sometimes, which isn't very fast at all. But that's what happens when you have a lot of Capricorn kind of in the way, right? Especially in your 3rd house. Like I have Saturn in my 3rd house in Aries. I talk a little harsh sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I talk a little slow, but I also have Saturn trining. See, there I go. I said trine instead of trying. Trining my Mercury. So I think it kind of gives me clear, concise thoughts, but I can talk a little slow sometimes. But back on track. Generally, trines are harmonious. Rewards are felt without having to work. The two energies are working together positively, and this would be considered a positive aspect. Like I said, mix the two energies together. Trines usually will have the same element, just a different modality. So let's say you have some sort of placement. That was a terrible line. Let's say you have some sort of placement here, and then you go into uh, another water sign like Pisces, and you have a placement here. These two placements will be trining each other, right? It's 120 degrees away from each other. If it was 190, it'd be a square, right? Because these are both fixed, Scorpio and Aquarius. This would be a square, but this, right, 120, and this is 90 right here, right? This is a square, square. This is a trine right here. I know my doodles look amazing, right? But hey, the point is getting through, right? 120 degrees away. That's what a trine is. Like I said, it's generally harmonious, it's positive. Like I said, a trick to always seeing it within your chart is it will be the same element. You cannot really have a trine, an exact trine, and it be a different element. That would be a sextile, if anything. But it wouldn't even be that. It would just be whatever it is. But it will always be the same element. Like I said, Scorpio water, Pisces water. And it can go for Cancer, right? Scorpio water, Cancer water. That's a trine right there. 120 degrees away. So, moving on. And this is the last one. This is a sextile. So, a sextile is when two or more planets form an angle that is half a trine, so 60 degrees. So it'll be within like that. Like I said here, like I think I said this green line right here was a sextile, right? So the symbol for sextile looks like, let me zoom in. Looks like this. Looks like this right here. It's kind of like a little star, little weird star. This is the stars that people would use when they couldn't actually make the actual star. Looks like that. Generally same energy as a trine. It's just it's just weaker. I would say this is probably the weakest aspect of the major five. From my personal experience, I never really feel it too strongly. And this sort of aspect, you tend to have to do a little bit of work, you know, in progressive astrology, which we'll talk about eventually here on this channel. Progressive astrology has aspects that sort of indicate, relationships forming and things like that. And a sextile between two people, in those aspects, it would still form a relationship, but there has to be some effort, right? Like a person would have to approach the other and actually try. Meanwhile, a trine just happens. You don't have to do anything to get the rewards of it. And generally, you don't necessarily have to do a lot to get the rewards of a sextile, but that's just how it works. Sextiles are much more subdued, softer energy. Considering the squares and the oppositions, those are difficult aspects. Those energies are much stronger in general, right, compared to the other two, right? I would say squares are the strongest. Well, conjunctions are stronger than any of them, but I was talking about the positives and the negative sort of energies, aspects, right? But I would say from my experience and how I look at it, conjunctions are the strongest one you're gonna get for all aspects. After that will come squares. Squares are second most, strongest in terms of the actual energy you're gonna be feeling. Oppositions come next, then trines, then I messed that up. Then sextiles, right? Like I said, sextiles generally positive transit. There just might have to be a little bit of work involved in that in order to get and reap the benefits. But this video is getting kind of long. I think I just reached 30 minutes. So if you have any questions, you have any concerns, anything you're interested in, something you want me to talk about, or whatever, just leave a comment down below. If you got anything from this video, anything, like the video, subscribe, because I'm going to be making a lot more content. I have a lot that I want to sort of push for. Remember, the channel is not just for astrology, it's for numerology, and it's for human design. Human design is a big one. I'm going to be making some human design videos soon, because that 2027 shift is coming soon, and I think it's important for people to understand and to know. You'd be better off knowing than not knowing, right? But at the end of it all, I thank you. I appreciate you for watching and everything like that. And this concludes the video. You know, if you like it, you like it. Thank you. If you didn't, tell me why. Tell me why down below, and don't tell me why if you don't. Either way, do whatever you want to do. I just appreciate you for being here, right? So I thank you, and have a good day.